Always going to be tempting because conflict and drama is always going to bring eyes and ears and attention. And a lot of these health professionals, they get sucked into that, and they look at the likes, they look at the activity, and just how it elevates their business. But now they're losing their message and their integrity along the way.
Here's the enemy. The enemy is people who are trying to rip people off, who are purposefully lying, and who are preying on the average consumer's insecurities in order to sell their products. Here's the good guys. Everybody that truly wants to help people. Now, you know what's in this category of good guys? Bodybuilders, could be power lifters, CrossFitters, people who use kettlebells, biohackers, people who believe in minimalism, people who are like strictly about clinical Western, science data, people who are about Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. Right. Now, they're all different, but they need to stop fighting each other.
We're now at a size that we're impacting enough people and we're helping enough people that my attitude now is just like, if you guys can't figure it out, watch us.
Yeah.
That's my attitude. Like if you can't figure out how to work together and help people improve themselves instead of attacking each other and trying to put people down all the time to get a leg up, okay, fine. Don't. You can just watch us because I think the right and better message will eventually win.
A little bit of exercise every single day is superior to a lot of exercise done maybe 2 days a week. This is starting to become a topic now that's going mainstream. There was that study that we brought up before that compared, 5 days a week of exercise to 2 or 3 days a week of exercise, all things being equal. So they did like a bicep curl, and they did the same amount of sets total for the week. And they did, one group 5 days a week, they did less sets. The other group did more sets 2 days a week, all things being equal. And the more frequent group did better in terms of muscle growth and adaptations. In studies with longevity and health, it's the same thing. People who work out a little bit every day tend to be better off than people who work out less frequently but do a lot on other days. So even if the total time is equated or equal, the frequency makes the biggest difference. And I notice this with clients. I notice this with myself. And I think this is a better message that needs to be communicated.
I feel like you love this message. It's almost like it's coming back full circle.
Yeah.
This is the more science, the more research, the more knowledge, the more experience we all have. The irony is that we tend to be coming back to a lot of old tested ways that we didn't have a lot of science to prove that it was superior, and it was just kind of how we did things based off of what we could observe. And that kind of moved us forward. And then we get all this great technology that helps us do all this great research. And then we become, it's funny too, what you're talking about right now. I was just recently looking at a post that was on impact theory, and Ben Greenfield, I would consider our biohacking pseudoscience type of friend. And I don't say pseudoscience in a slide like it's meant. I think that just he goes cutting edge, and he talks about stuff that is maybe some animal studies, observations, and he breaks it down.
We do a lot of self experiments
also.
Yeah, and I saw underneath there our other friend Lane just blasting Tom Bilyeu for having him and other people in the space. And what I'm reminded of is just like, I don't know how arrogant we've become when it comes to science, that we just we all become very dogmatic about our beliefs, and then we fight with each other, and we start to argue over these little nuanced small details in the grand scheme of things when it comes to helping somebody be healthier and live a better life. And we've lost sight of the most simple, obvious, basic advice that could truly shape and help somebody for the rest of their life. And I feel like what you're talking about right now is so simple and basic, and it's not,
it just describes like human behavior. Like this is something that we know people are more likely to adopt, because it's something that's like, it's not, doesn't take like the most effort for you to like involve yourself 100% into this intense type of a workout that's draining, and it requires a longer amount of time, and it's infrequent. So if it's frequent, it's less demanding. The intensity is a little bit lower. You string it out longer. You're just going to be more likely to have success.
I'll use an extreme example of that. Okay, so imagine if we took two groups of people, and let's say the goal was longevity and health. Okay, that's the goal. So let's see which group has better markers of longevity and health. And on one group, we said once a week we want you to go for a 3.5 hour walk. So every Saturday, scheduled 3.5 hours. The other group, 30 minutes a day. Okay, it adds up to the same. It adds up to the same total time. Which group is going to have less injuries? Which group is going to have better health markers?
Yeah.
Which group is, and this is something that we never consider in the fitness space. Never. And this is the thing you should consider first and foremost, always. And you learn this as a trainer after decades of training people. Which one is more likely to lead to consistent behaviors? Is it easier to get the average person to do a 3.5 hour walk once a week, or to get them to walk 30 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Right? We don't consider those things. So that's an extreme example of what I'm talking about.
Well, you're also explaining cardio, right? Walking or hiking. And what I think is interesting about the study that you're referencing is that this has to do with strength training.
Now, of course, we could get so extreme that it gets ridiculous, but this is true for any activity, any learning, any type of adaptation. You're better off with frequent exposure than you are with infrequent, intense, long exposure, unless the goal is, let's train your mental fortitude. Like, I want to teach someone to be able to weather the storm and just go crazy, Okay, then the 3.5 hour walk might teach you to just ignore your body's signals and all that stuff. But we're talking about the most important stuff in health and fitness, which is longevity, consistency. That's the biggest problem.
Well, it's general population stuff. This isn't like, we're not talking about sports. We're not talking about bodybuilders. We're not talking about, that sort of part of the population. We're talking about your everyday average person. Like, how can we get them to buy into it without too much barrier in front of them?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? I'm not going to give away one program. I'm not going to give away two programs. I'm going to give away 3 programs. It's the RGB bundle: MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, MAPS Aesthetic. You're going to give all 3 away to one of you lucky viewers, but you have to do this, okay? You got to leave a comment below. In the first 24 hours that we drop this episode, it helps us with the algorithm, right? We want to beat everybody else, and we know we will eventually. We just make it faster. We want to make it happen faster. So leave a comment below, subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, and then if we like your comment, we'll notify you in the comment section, and you'll get the RGB bundle hooked up. Now, also, we have a sale going on this month. MAPS Starter is 50% off. This is a beginner's strength training program. And then the Prime Bundle, this is a correctional exercise mobility-based bundle, which includes 2 programs, is also 50% off. So Starter 50% off, Prime Bundle 50% off. You can find both of those at mapsfitnessproducts.com, but you have to use the code August50 for the 50% off discount. All right, here comes the show. Well, imagine this. Imagine you got 2 people arguing with each other. I work out. I do 2 35-minute workouts a week where I lift weights. And the other guy goes, well, I do 10 minutes a day. And he's like, well, that's 10 minutes a day is not enough. Add up the time, it's the same. And the studies will show, or starting to show, what we've all experienced, which is the 10 minutes a day probably is a little bit better, especially when it comes to, like I said, the behavior consistency aspect. You know what's funny? This is how well proven this is. You guys ever remember the old school birth control that came in the circular thing?
In like 2 days worth of sugar pills or whatever.
They would put in placebo pills in there.
Yeah.
Because they knew studies would show quite clearly that if women skipped days, they were less likely to be consistent rather than just take one every day. And then some of these are fake and some of them are real. So you'll have the days off that you're supposed to have or whatever. Now, I know birth controls differently these days or whatever, but that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Now, to what you're saying, Adam, I think it's important to understand something. There's 2 things that we need to get here. One is there are a lot of bullshit artists. There are a lot of people with nefarious intent in every market, and that's true for the fitness and health market. Okay, there are people that are just trying to sell you crap, that are just trying to make a buck, that are going to prey on your insecurities. In fact, they call that, finding someone's pain points. Okay, if you've ever taken a sales course, they'll use this. Find someone's pain point. Right? In fitness, it's you feel bad about yourself. You're ugly. You're fat. You're not sexy. Okay. So those are pain points, and they use those. So they manipulate people through these pain points. Very effective to get people to buy something short term. It's very ineffective to give someone long-term successful results. It's also easier to sell than it is doing the right way. So our space is filled with that. However, there are people in our space who have really good intentions, who truly want to help people. And does that mean that everything they say is going to be 100% accurate? Or does that mean that they're going to communicate everything in the perfect way? No. But my goal, and we've talked about this, is to elevate the people with the good intentions, because they modify their message. They're the ones that say, oh, I was wrong about that. They're the ones that say, wait, is that really helping people? And we've identified that there's some good people in space. And guess what? You just brought two of them up, which they don't like each other.
Right.
Lane Norton, Ben Greenfield. And they constantly, especially Lane. Lane tends to go after Ben all the time because Ben is the biohacker guy. But Ben's got really good, he's a really good guy. He really wants to help people.
Well, I'm less interested in what you say and I'm more interested in what you do.
Yeah.
And I think we know both those guys really well.
They're both good people.
Really, really well.
Yeah.
Like I would consider all of us friends. And even though we don't collectively hang out all together because they're not friends, I think both of them have really good intentions. Whatever it is, the mechanism that drives them to pursue greatness in their space, whatever, that matters less to me. But their intent is to truly to help and educate people. And you can see that. I mean, we've all been to Ben's house multiple times. I know Justin stayed with him for the weekend, and like you can tell by the way he lives his life that he's not some, pseudo, like I saw somebody called him a pseudoscience grifter. I mean, the guy's not out trying to make a bunch of money off of people. Even the way, to be honest with you, and I've criticized Ben off air with these guys, that he's not this like super business go make a ton of money guy. Like that's not the way he's structured his business. He's very conservative with his money, and he doesn't spend it frivolously, and he's not trying. He doesn't even pay attention to it. In fact, he spends, I think, sometimes even more money on educating himself every year than he does on probably producing more revenue for his business. So, I mean, I just
and to be clear, we've disagreed with both Lane and Ben.
That's right.
Many times, just like I disagree with you guys sometimes. You guys are my best friends. So I think it's silly. And here's the part that sucks is the
consumer is lost.
Well, let's fight each other and let's create camps.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, who loses, right? The average person.
This whole division thing, right? When there's such a bigger picture out there that we need to be a light and a shining example to help, whoever else that might need to hear certain messages in a different form. That's the other thing too. It's like, maybe they're coming from a different perspective, but again, the intent of it is you see the intent of where they're trying to convey that message to kind of bring people into a better situation.
Just to be even, I'll criticize both of them right now. I know, and if you guys are watching this, you guys know I love you. So I'm just going to criticize you both. Ben loves to promote essential amino acids. Okay. We've said many times essential amino acid supplements are a waste of money if you eat a lot of protein. If you eat enough protein, supplementing with essential amino acids is a waste of money. Now, why does Ben promote essential amino acids? He's a big promoter of fasting, skipping meals, eating low calories.
Also endurance training.
Crazy endurance training. Okay, in those contexts, it actually makes sense in many cases. If you're not eating a lot of protein, if you're fasting a lot, if you're doing all that kind of stuff, essential amino acids actually make a big difference. For the average person, we always say try to get a lot of protein and then don't waste your money on essential amino acids. Okay. Lane did a post recently, and I actually commented underneath it where he said he criticized people who say that some foods are addictive. Foods aren't addictive, it's and I said, no. And I said, look, I get where he's coming from in the sense that, it's not like cocaine or, people aren't, turning tricks on the corner for fast food or whatever. However, it's proven, it's a fact that foods that create more rewards to the body in terms of dopamines, serotonin, like hyperpalatable foods.
There's a mechanistic addiction, and then there's a behavioral addiction.
Right, and so foods that make you feel good real quick, like hyperpalatable foods, are more likely to be addictive and have people abuse foods the way that people can abuse drugs. Yes, so then yes, you can say that some foods are more addictive than others. So that's what I said to him in my comment, and that's where I oppose what he's saying when he tries to make everything kind of a little more black and white. But both guys are very, very good intentions, lots of integrity, and Lane and Ben are both the kind of people that would sit there and, if shown the right evidence, made the right argument, they'd say, Oh yeah, I agree. I'm sorry that was wrong.
Yeah, totally. I just see him as like one's a lot more of a clinical background perspective, study heavy, like controlled environment. One is like, out there sort of like experimenting, self-experimenting, kind of a little bit more on the
theoretical
fringe.
Listen, I said this on the show many times in defense of Ben. Is like, there is no other person. Okay, we've been doing this now for 7+ years. We've met hundreds of brilliant minds in the health and fitness space. Hundreds by now, okay? There is no person I have yet to meet that I would rather go out and test all of these fringe things and report back to me what he thinks.
Yeah.
And respect his opinion.
Yeah.
That's Ben. And so I don't care. So it doesn't mean you need to, I don't adopt 95% of the stuff he talks about because I'm not interested in that. But I'm curious enough to hear what he's doing with it and his feedback on it, because I think he's one of the best people to go do that because he's really smart and he's one of the most consistent, most disciplined people I've ever met in my life. And if somebody is going to be doing fringe stuff and then reporting back on what they notice, that's the person that I want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want...
You need outliers.
Yes.
You need people to test the system. Like, it's great to have a airtight system that you think is airtight, but then you need people to test that from the outside.
Yes.
To really get even more knowledge that we can all benefit from.
Yeah,
so you need both of those things.
Here's the enemy. The enemy is people who are trying to rip people off, who are purposefully lying, and who are preying on the average consumer's insecurities in order to sell their products. Here's the good guys. Everybody that truly wants to help people. Now, you know what's in this category of good guys? Bodybuilders, could be power lifters, CrossFitters, people who use kettlebells, biohackers, people who believe in minimalism, people who are like strictly about clinical Western, science data, people who are about Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. Right. Now, they're all different, but they need to stop fighting each other over certain things. In fact, I would love to see discussions and debates. Like I'll never forget this. I remember I had this great discussion with this acupuncturist who used to rent space in my studio. I mean, back in the day when I had my studio, I was your typical trainer. I knew exercises, I knew calories, and I knew macros. That was it. Wellness was not a part of my vernacular. It wasn't what I understood. I didn't talk about behaviors at this particular time. I was very much really good at knowing the trainer stuff, and that was it. But I brought in an acupuncturist because I knew that consumers valued them, okay? I didn't believe in it personally, but for me, but I had clients that said, hey, it works for me, I like it. And I said, you know what, I want to offer a place where if somebody wants acupuncture, they'll come here, and then maybe they'll see me, and I'll be able to talk to them as well. And if the acupuncturist doesn't do a good job, I can always boot them type of deal, right? So that was my attitude. At least I was open in that sense. Well, anyway, when I would meet with the acupuncturist, we would have these discussions, and she was very open. And I'd say, so how does it work? Because I've seen a couple studies that show that it actually reduces pain for some people. I tend to believe it's placebo. Please don't take this the wrong way, but like, explain to me. And she goes, well, it's the way that chi flows through the body. And so she's explaining it from Chinese medicine perspective, which I had zero exposure to. Understanding everything at that point for me was very, at the most, Western medicine. So she's saying that, and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, there's this Chinese energy, chi flowing through the body, and it gets blocked, and they have to open up the meridians, and she's saying all this stuff. Well, anyway, later on that day, I'm training one of my surgeon clients, and he's talking about referred pain, I think was a term, where like a real common one is your left arm starts to hurt. That can often mean that you have a heart attack, right? That you're having a heart attack. Yeah. And there's lots of cases like that where something hurts one place and it means something else. Right. And I said, oh, the central nervous system kind of works in a very strange way. And I wonder if putting needles in the body just gets the CNS to communicate, or for you to perceive the communications differently. So I went to the Chinese medicine, to the acupuncturist, and I said, what's funny? I said, I know you speak a different language than Western medicine doctors, but they talk about central nervous system and how, how if there's something off of the communication, or if I'm depressed or sad, that can cause pain. I said, I wonder if we're just speaking a different language. She goes, oh, that makes a lot of, and we had this wonderful discussion after that. But you know what? She wants to help people. I want to help people. So rather than being like, your way's wrong, like, okay, let's figure this out and work
There's
together.
different terms and things
Yes.
culturally, like people are raised with and grow up with, and so they understand things like in terms of like how you describe things a little bit differently. And so it doesn't mean that it's to completely like abandon that because it's not using clinical terms. So I find that just it's arrogance. I guess is the best word to describe most of like what I see in terms of like when people really get into fights about it because they're adamant that they're right, which is to me is always a red flag because
It's more than that. It's I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we're becoming dumber and more divisive. It's literally, and a lot of it has to do, unfortunately, with the way we consume content now, right? It's the every year a new report comes out on the attention span and how fast how little a time you have to capture someone's attention. So you get these little sound bites, right? So you got, I don't know how many hundreds of people commenting on the post that we're referring to right now, where it's a clip of Ben speaking for 30 seconds.
Yeah, and he's saying basically the benefits of fasting post-workout. Now, I haven't listened to the whole podcast at all, but I bet you he's being nuanced and saying, well, if you eat right afterwards, maybe it'll benefit you if you're going to work out again. But here's in a case where fasting maybe. I bet you that's what he said. I'm going to guess. I didn't listen to the whole thing. Nonetheless, what he's saying is also true. And in some contexts, I would actually I used to tell some clients
if you
to
go back far enough in this podcast, when I was competing, I go into a cut. This was one of the first meals I cut out was post-workout. I would train and then I would extend the meal for as long as I could until the next one. That was one of the first things that I did when I started to restrict calories. The first meal to go. Now, when I was trying to bulk, the opposite. I was always in a hurry to get more food in every 2 hours or less because I had the amount of calories I had to consume. And so I would be shake at the gym, and then I would do eating again 30 minutes later, another meal. Well, quickly, when I would go the other direction, those are the first two and I felt amazing from that. And that's just my own experience. It was something that I continued to do the entire time I competed. So,
well, with gut health issues, eating in an inflamed state. So if you have a really intense workout and then you eat afterwards, you might actually cause yourself some gastro distress, some inflammation in the gut. By the way, I remember I used to have a practitioner in my studio. They used to talk about leaky gut syndrome. And I remember that, again, I had doctors that would come in and work out and they used to smirk.
They would scoff at
and
that
scoff
term.
and laugh. Oh, leaky gut syndrome. Oh, that's so ridiculous. This, pseudoscience bullshit. You know what they call that now? Intestinal hyperpermeability. No, that's the medical term for it now because they've identified that.
Totally different.
It's a real thing. What about adrenal fatigue? Oh God, your adrenals don't get fatigued. That's baloney. You know what they call it now? HPA axis dysfunction. So the adrenals don't get fatigued, but the symptoms are the same. They just didn't really call it the right thing. So this is where things get a little silly to me. And what happens is we end up, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the political elite. And what they do is they're really good at getting everybody to fight with each other, so they ignore who the hell who's really causing the shit.
Exactly.
So we're over here fighting each other over a bunch of stuff.
Just change definitions and words, and then pretend that they're right the whole time.
Yeah, and then meanwhile they're up there, raking it in and acting the same or whatever. So anyway, I just we need to kind of work together because the common enemy is obesity, poor health, poor mental health, and the answers to that are in our space. But we get in our own way all the time. I hate seeing it. I hate seeing when we get in our own way.
It used to fire me up more than it does now. Now I'm just like, we're now at a size that we're impacting enough people and we're helping enough people that my attitude now is just like, if you guys can't figure it out, watch us.
Yeah.
That's my attitude. Like if you can't figure out how to work together and help people improve themselves instead of attacking each other and trying to put people down all the time to get a leg up, okay, fine. Don't. You can just watch us. Because I think the right and better message will eventually win. And that's what we've experienced in this whole process that we've been going through. This is that, we didn't have this overnight success. It wasn't this, we turned these things on and we created some viral stuff. And then all of a sudden, here came all the success. Like it's been a slow grind and process of communicating the same message over and over thousands of different ways.
It's always going to be tempting because conflict and drama is always going to bring eyes and ears and attention. And a lot of these health professionals, they get sucked into that, and they look at the likes, they look at the activity, and just how it elevates their business. But now they're losing their message and their integrity along the way.
By the way, Okay. Speaking of like being able to put a message out to just trick everybody, to show how easy it is to put out misinformation and get everybody to act in a particular way. That video you sent.
Oh my God.
On the
Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Bored Ape Yacht Club.
The largest, most successful NFT project to date.
And it was it's a
biggest
massive
manipulation in history.
It's
probably.
a massive troll job.
Yeah.
Massive. So for people who don't know, so 4chan is this like super.
Were you aware of 4chan before this?
I'd never been on it.
So I wasn't aware of it until I watched that video.
Okay, so I've never been on it, but I do know that this is basically like it's anarchy of the internet. Like you can say and
it's
do anything.
anonymous, so they can go on there and anonymously like post whatever like horrible shit they want to. It's almost like they're being a character, you know, and they're like, ooh, I'm posting all this like controversial stuff and nobody's gonna know it's me.
But also you end up getting these groups that connect on there.
Yeah.
And then by the way, 4chan is responsible for many of the viral memes that
meme
come
culture
out.
is originated from there.
Yeah, like messages that come out. It all starts and originates there, and then it filters through, Reddit and then normal social media. For example, here's another troll job they did. They literally on 4chan said we're gonna troll everybody into thinking that the OK sign, this right here, which we've been doing since we were forever.
Remember when that hit the news?
Yes, they said we're gonna convince everybody that's a white supremacist sign.
Yeah,
and they did.
Yeah.
They did. They actually
got arrested.
Some white supremacist groups started using it. Then the news started flying with it. All of a sudden, there were pictures of celebrities doing this very innocuous, like innocent thing. Oh my God, Mel Gibson. Oh my God, Mike Tyson. Holy cow, I don't know. He's a white supremacist. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it was all a troll job.
Yeah.
And they totally succeeded. This video on the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Oh shit.
What if I told you that one of the most successful NFT collections in the world was pulling off the biggest troll in internet history?
It's the deepest troll I've ever seen in my life. And not only that, but they actually structured it in a way that they thought of an escape plan too, right? Mm-hmm. So like if you did something, what I think was, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of brilliance behind what they did. Of course, the messaging they tied themselves to with racism and Nazi, like that's terrible. But I think it's really coming from people that are not at all. And I think because there's no racist ties to them. You have a Jewish guy, a Pakistani guy, or like an Iranian guy, and I've like 4 different dudes. It's just like the idea that they're this white supremacist group is crazy.
No, what they are is they're basically like
they're creators,
and also like, hey, let's just show everybody how
they're exposing how like group mind, like how much of sheep we are,
and let's cause a bunch of shit and laugh about it, right? Because this whole thing, it's if you watch this video, the Bored Ape Yacht Club like NFTs are packed full of Nazi symbolism, white supremacy type stuff. There's so much of it. It's not. There's not a coincidence. They 100%.
Oh, it's
did
layers
this to
on
fuck
layers
with everybody.
on layers.
So
and
I
the best part
it,
is celebrities adopted it and drove the price through the roof of these things.
How much are they worth? Something billion?
They're worth over $1 billion. And like the individual NFTs, like so the individual apes, I think range from like as on the low end like 150K to I think some of them sell over $1 million for some of these. Like,
do you think that the price of them is going to go up or down now?
So here's
this is all coming out.
Okay, so I was telling Katrina this, and she's like, "Well, didn't you just sell it then?" I'm like, okay. So now you get wind that it's this race thing, so you profit off of it.
People find out you made money off of it.
That's right. Then people find out you profited and made money off of it. And she's like, oh, okay, well then you just burn it and then you don't use it because you can destroy it. Okay, well then you basically light on fire $500,000.
Yeah.
Like what a crazy fucking predicament they put everybody in. Now.
You also don't want to admit that it may be true. Yep. So you may be like, I'm just going to sit over here and be quiet.
Well, no, they gave. Okay, so that was the part of what, and I know brilliance is the word I'm using because I can't think of a better term for it because I think it was just so crafty what they did. But they gave themselves plausible deniability because there are no real ties to them like that, and they actually have like kind of a plausible story on why they're all like that. They put a different CEO as the face of the brand who has been told her own story and is defensive about all that. And so they've really kind of covered all their tracks, and they could and that's why it still exists. I've never seen something that has so many crazy racist, white supremacist type ties to it that has not been blasted and shut
You
down.
know what it shows?
Well, the creators too. I mean, they were fictional writers,
Yes.
creative writers.
Yeah, two of them
like,
were creative writers.
I mean, you could tell. Like, there's just layers on layers. Like somebody that came up with like Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
For instance, and like all the different characters, all the different scenarios. Like they pulled from history, like all these different imagery, like all these things. So it's like you have to go back and look all this stuff up to really see it for what it is.
You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember the show Saved by the Bell?
Yeah.
Do you remember what's her name? Kelly, was that her name?
Yeah,
the
Kelly
pretty one, right?
Kapowski, dude.
And it was like she's so popular, and whatever she does, everybody does. So one day she came to school and she had a pizza on her head, and then the next day everybody was
Everybody's
wearing
got pizza? Yeah.
Yes. That's what they did. They basically were like, if we can
100%,
get celebrities to say something's cool,
Yeah.
everybody's a sheep are going to follow along. Exactly what happened.
Yep.
It's exactly celebrities adopted this Bored Ape Yacht, these NFTs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're valuable because why? Because Jay-Z owns a couple of them and all these. Like, whoa.
Yeah, Eminem, Jimmy Fallon. I think Ellen has one. Like, I mean, Steph Curry. I mean, they got athletes. They got musicians.
So
they
my
got
question
TV
is,
stars.
do you
They
think because of the controversy they're worth more now or less? Because I'm thinking, my God, I
Yeah.
wonder if they're going to be worth more now
That's a
because
good question.
it's going to be revealed it's being revealed as the greatest troll job of
So
all
the end
history.
of that video that I sent you, and I forget the guy, Philion is the name of the guy, to give him credit for the video, YouTube guy. He calls for, they can destroy it because you own it.
So you can do whatever you want.
You could technically destroy it. And if everybody agreed to destroy it, it would completely destroy the business.
Right.
It would shut it down completely, and then
Right.
no more money to be made, and it would be over or whatever like that. But that would require everybody coming together and banding together and destroying it. So long as and think about this: if half the people destroy it and the other half don't, the value will go up.
Yeah.
It's now more rare.
Well, do you know how much money like Nazi memorabilia can be worth? Do you know? Like if you
It's
found
crazy.
like Hitler's like shirt,
yeah,
you know, he's a terrible man. That's priceless.
yeah.
So I wonder if the value goes up because, you know, of all the
Of course.
fact that it was a
Notorious.
troll job.
Yeah.
Of course. And okay, these guys are so deep, you know, to Justin's point about Game of Thrones, there's so many layers to this that I think it would be naive of me to think that I have it even all figured out, like that they don't even already have like the steps of how it would unfold already figured out. So I think that's all part of the plan. As deep as these guys went, do you not think that there's more to the plan? You have to think that, right?
Well,
No.
okay, so you guys didn't watch the documentary Into the Storm about QAnon.
No.
You should watch that. But it talks about all these groups, the 8chan, the 4chan, like all
Yeah.
these like savvy internet people, whatever, and just how one person sort of like claims anonymously that they have this inside in the administration when Trump was in office, and then it just became like this story of like leaks and like all this stuff, and then
Pizzagate.
you know, and you just think like whether or not Trump was playing into that or whatever, or like, you know, there was actually somebody, like it just became one of those things of legend where it just kind of took a life of its own. Now everybody keeps contributing to it, and then it's like this whole like subculture that thinks that like they have all the answers, and it's pretty crazy to see like this online community, what they're capable of.
I'm telling you, the internet is literally fire. And what I mean by that is like we discovered fire, and we discovered something that could warm us and cook our food. And we also discovered one of the most ultimate forms of killing and weaponry. Same thing with
It's
nuclear
like World
power.
of Warcraft, but like they try to make it real. Like
Well-
they create these characters, personas online, but they're actually really affecting the world.
Well, I'm just saying, like it's literally amplifying human behavior.
I mean,
both
all,
for good
all
and bad.
this feeds into my theory on that we're moving in this direction of plugged and unplugged, right? Like the more power they gain and the more they can manipulate like that, the more people start waking up and realizing like, I got to stay out of this, because at this point, what is true? What is true, and how, and am I being manipulated, and am I being taken advantage of by being connected and in here?
Oh, wow.
And so it's just driving that direction further. And then you have some people that, fuck it, I'm going to accept it. I want to be a part of it. I don't care or whatever. So I still think we're and what I see when I see things like this is we're moving faster than I thought. Like I say, like in our lifetime, I think we're going to see this. Maybe my mom doesn't see it or what that. But when I see things like this come out, I go like, man, maybe it will happen before my mom even goes. Like maybe she'll get to see this time where we will be separated, where there's plugged in and unplugged.
You know what happens to me when I see this? My first initial reaction is like, "Oh, people are so stupid. Look how easily they're tricked." And then I go, "Wait a minute.
What if I've been tricked?
I'm
About?
I
know. I'm always thinking about that.
Am I getting pulled around and fooled with? And I would totally not be aware. And it's arrogant of me to think I'm so wise and smart that I wouldn't see it.
Conspiracy. Here we go. Thank you for setting me up.
You got it
on the tee there.
You got it, my friend.
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of this one. This is like 2015, I guess. But you guys might have heard about like this sort of floating city in China that they saw. It was basically, and I have it.
Oh, in the sky.
In the sky.
I really feel like we should get high for this conversation.
Yes. No.
So there's like a video. There's a video of it, and like people there. According to like people around, they claim they all saw it. So there's always eyewitness accounts.
A floating city?
Yes.
It was in the sky.
And so science tries to basically describe this as like some kind of mirage effect, right? So you have like...
Didn't they take pictures of it?
I forget what they call it. I have it written down in here somewhere. But like, yeah, they took pictures, but it was mainly the video on YouTube that went viral from it. But it was a trippy video. You saw like towers. And so it was like... the only thing too about it though is so you see like this city and it's like way above the clouds. So it's like, how is it like mirroring and reflecting the city if it's like above this cloud? And then also too, like a couple days later, like 100 miles away, they had the same effect in another city.
I saw this video.
Yeah.
I thought it was fake.
Yeah.
I thought that it was CGI.
It looks super fake.
So everybody's like, no, this is what they saw and this is a mirage. Look at that, dude.
Yeah.
In the sky.
Like above the clouds. I was tripping on that. I was like, what if that was true? It would be crazy.
Well, I don't know, man.
What movie was that? Is it Inception? Was it Inception that did the
Oh. Well, you know what? So like shit started getting real weird right around 2000.
The Fata Morgana effect. That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, so in 2016 is when shit started getting weird. That's when they turned on that Large Hadron Collider. I'm telling you, dude. We've moved into a weird
Bro, I'm trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. It's
they all
just
mean
like
something.
not aligning, dude.
Hey, if we go to Justin's house, he's got a room with the wall strings, a bunch of red strings that connect
like this. And then they said this, but then I saw this.
Somewhere on there's cheese.
I'm just always scratching my head, dude.
Everything ties back to that.
Yeah,
it's so the world is so weird now. Like, like I've watched every science fiction movie you can think of, and it's like, I swear to God, like you're just starting to see all this stuff starting to come out.
Oh, that's why. All right, I'm going to talk about some science. Let's take it. Let's have some fun here. So Harvard University has a page. I'm going to pull it up on the proven effects of cannabinoids, in particular cannabidiol, CBD. This is pretty good. This is Harvard, so this is like proven by studies, which is pretty good. So anxiety. They're showing that CBD helps with anxiety now in studies. Although initially that was something that people said, no, it doesn't. Now, finally, all the anecdotes or people are saying, it makes me feel more calm. Studies are showing, no, there's definitely an anxiolytic effect. Insomnia, so for sleep, again, a lot of people talk about that. Chronic pain. And then here's one that, an addiction, by the way. CBD can help lower cravings for tobacco and heroin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
So remember those old studies? Well, remember when they first started to legalize medical marijuana, and there was like lots of people against it, and then they had studies showing, well, wait a minute, the states where they legalized marijuana for medical use, there's less use of opiates.
Oh, that's right. I do
remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so they're showing that it actually reduces cravings.
So you get a hankering for heroin,
Another reason why they don't want to make it fully legal.
Well,
too.
I mean, there you go, right?
Yeah.
So here's another one, and this one I was not aware of. So CBD balms or creams that you rub on the skin, I'm always really skeptical.
I've always been skeptical though.
So I'm like, okay, the cannabinoid receptors, you have to ingest it. They're in the body. Is it systemic? Is there a localized effect in the skin?
Right.
Whatever. There's studies that show that rubbing balms on your skin can help lower pain and inflammation.
I mean, your skin's a giant organ, so the fact
it is, but I would imagine it being this kind of systemic effect. But they're showing these studies it's localized too. So if it's my elbow that hurts, rub it on my elbow, and it makes my elbow feel better.
So then it has to be penetrating deeper than the skin.
Either that or on the skin itself. So when you rub like old school like Tiger Balm and shit like that.
Yeah. Well, it's because it emanates that sort of scent that doesn't it trigger?
Well, it's not the scent so much as it tricks your body into thinking something's cold or warm. So it's like you ever eat like you ever eat mint gum and then drink water and it's like feels like it's freezing?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not. Well, obviously the water's not cold, But what that mint does is it tricks the nerves in your mouth into thinking you're perceiving cold.
Okay.
So when you rub something on that feels cool, even though it's not cold, the perception of coolness
Is that the same mechanism that's going on?
similar.
Oh, wow.
And so what happens is your CNS perceives it as less pain. So there's still pain there, but you're perceiving it differently so that it doesn't hurt as much.
So do you have to combine then some kind of heating or
No.
cooling effect to CBD?
No,
or do you
it's just
do it-
it's
so
just the
that's-
CBD. Now, one of
So
our
now how does that work?
so that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Ned, one of our partners, they have a balm, a hemp oil balm. We've never talked about it because I've always been skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
I only talk about their hemp oil drops and their other stuff. They have a balm, and so I'm reading these studies. I'm like, okay, well, and they told me this. People love it. I'm like, do they really? Like, how does it work when you rub it in the skin? I know cannabinoids and you have to ingest it. Well, no, studies show that you can rub it on an area.
Gonna have to hook your dad up then.
Yeah, dude.
You've already got him on.
He loves the oil.
I know.
It's just
Ooh, it
Hey,
feels good.
Next time we see him, he's gonna be like blitz, dude.
yeah, it's super,
stuff.
just all.
Just rubbing it on like lotion.
Yeah. Didn't you say, Justin, when you were a kid, you played basketball with your dad, and he like Ben Gay his whole body?
Bro, like clockwork. Every time we go to do anything, especially basketball, you'd like sit there. We'd take 30 minutes before we could even play because he's just rubbing it on his knees, rubbing it all over his like shoulder, like everything. And then you go to cover him, and it was just like, oh, it smells like a medicine box, you know? Yeah.
You try to grab him.
And now I get it. There's aches and pains and
Yeah.
all that. But,
Speaking of family, so it's hilarious. I always tell my family, hey, if you guys want any supplements or products from sponsors we work with, they send us a lot of stuff. You're my family. You ever stop by the studio, let me know. I'll let you in the back, grab whatever you want, take it. It's always been open. Okay. Yeah. I'm very much like that with my family. Nobody ever takes me up on it. If they come by to visit, which is rare, I'll take them back there. They'll take a thing here or there. No big deal. Ever since we started working with Magic Spoon.
Oh yeah.
And I started having my family members try Magic Spoon. I swear to God, I feel like I'm dealing drugs. I get messages. I get messages from family members now.
Yeah.
They never visit here. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, you're working tomorrow, right? Like, yeah. What's going on? Oh, you mind if I stop by, grab some Magic Spoon?
What's funny?
I'm like, come on, man.
Dude, I hoarded some.
Now you want that? Now you want
can
to
tell
stop by?
that's been going on because we get cases from them every month, right? So they send cases down here, and there's like a couple flavors that not a lot of people like, and all the best flavors are all gone. There's
gone.
like 60 boxes up there of like flavors that you ever like. That's not like one of my favorite flavors. All the best flavors gone all the time, and we're stocking up on all the other ones.
Dude, it cracks me up.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's so weird. I had my studio for 6 years. You just never stop by. Now you want to stop by every month?
Dude, you want something else that'll crack you up? It was so funny yesterday. Max, Katrina got Max he's into Mario. So like a lot of his stuff is Mario, and she got him a Mario backpack. It's like his first backpack, right? And he fills it up with like his monster trucks and some of his books and stuff like that. And then he knows how to put his backpack on. But it's the first time my son's ever wore a backpack. It's the first time I've ever seen him wear a backpack. And because of the weight, he naturally puts his arms out like this to counterbalance. Cool backpack, guy.
Ta-da! Oh, are you Frankenstein now?
What are you doing? I like your backpack.
Otherwise, he'll fall back.
He's Frankenstein.
So he gets all excited, he puts it on, and then he walks around like this. And then Katrina would be like, son, put your arms by your side. Then he exaggerates his arms by his side. then he walks on like this. I was dying, bro. I was dying laughing. Just something you don't even think about, right? You know what I'm saying? The very first time you put a weight on your back.
Right. It's like, oh, I'm going to fall over.
And then Katrina, because Katrina couldn't figure it out, I'm like, he's trying to counterbalance. That's totally what he's doing. You put weight in his back. He's never had that pulling sensation. So it's just
You
natural.
know what I would do for fun?
Natural.
I'd put some heavy ass shit in there and say, here you go. And just like wait and see what he does.
Well, that's how I figured it out was because originally he was doing real light stuff and he was already naturally doing it. What I noticed was as I put more,
His arms come out more.
yeah, he was like really exaggerating, putting his arms out in front of him when he's walking.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Katrina's like, stop walking with your arms out. You look silly. Put your arms by your side.
Frankenstein.
And then he puts his arms by his side. He looks all awkward trying to walk.
Kids are so funny. So we have these crackers that Jessica found. They're really healthy crackers, and Aurelius loves them. So we give it to him sparingly as a snack, but he knows they're in the pantry. Okay, if I can't find him or I want to get a hold, and I tell him, "Hey, Aurelius, come here, buddy, come here," and he's ignoring me or no. All I got to do is open the pantry. Sure enough, you hear little feet. And he's right there. Can I, inside? Nobody, sorry. And then he looks at me and he goes, bye. And he starts pushing me out because he wants to go inside and get his crap. So it's like, if I need to find where he is, I just open the pantry. And then you hear his little feet running. He's right there, right behind you. Like, oh,
Hungry.
I know. It's gotten to the point now where I have to hide. So if I open it, I'm like real quiet and I'm like, I'll hide, I'm eating some of the crackers.
It's funny how they make those associations and then how well they remember things like that. Max is the same way too. Like if you give him a certain new treat, like I introduced him to a protein bar the other day, which is basically a glorified candy bar, right?
Yeah.
And boy, for a kid who never really had sugar, and then you give him like a piece of a chocolate candy bar or chocolate protein bar, which again is like, by the way, that reminds me, we should bring this up because we've never talked about this on the show. And it was advice I used to give. Sorry for the derail, but it just reminded me of something that I wanted to share on the show. I used to share this advice when I was a really young trainer because I can't remember where I first read it. And then it was something that I stopped talking about and I didn't think about anymore. And this whole situation with Max and allowing him to have a bite of it like really made me realize and go like, we've been marketed, myself including, been marketed to so well about like protein bars is healthy and it's like it's a great source of protein because it says protein on it and they highlight the grams. But we used to tell clients like if it's not 25% or more protein, then it's not a protein food. And so what you got to pay attention to, and I'm going to throw this company under the bus because I think they taste amazing, is Quest. Is like 80% of their bars. I shouldn't say that. I don't know the numbers. I shouldn't use a percentage like that. The 80% of the ones that are in my house, I should say, that we have, and I have quite a few of them in my pantry. Only one of them actually, I think, passes that test at above 25%. Most of them are. So
what is it then?
10, 12, even one of them 5%, but they highlight the protein.
So how many grams of protein versus
So
what?
you're talking about way more sugar. That's what I'm saying. Like if not 1/4 of that's what that means. 25% or more means 1/4 of the calories are coming from protein. That's it. At least 1/4 needs to be coming from protein to be considered a real protein food.
Got it.
Otherwise, it's a carbohydrate or it's a fat. And when you flip those boxes around and you look at the content, just because it says it's a protein bar or protein food, do not be fooled that it's.
Let me see. Pull that up, Doug.
Which one is that?
What does that say? Right?
That's their good one.
That's the birthday cake.
Yeah, that's funny you brought that up. That's the exact one that has
21 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And how many grams of everything?
Now
else?
look at their other snacks that they have. All their other bars.
Well, hold on. How many grams is this?
That's 21 grams. No, this is the good one.
Oh.
This is the one good one. It's 42%.
Oh, I see.
So that would be considered a protein food.
I didn't know they had their bars all had different macros and shit.
Oh, yeah. All foods do. Like, so pay attention to this next time you're in the grocery store.
So this one's 40-something% protein.
Yeah, so that's
considered a protein.
Yes, 100%. That would be good. This would be okay. This by the way, it's funny you brought this birthday cake one up. I have all the boxes I have of all their different. So I have their cupcakes or their peanut butter cups. Doug, look those up and look at their little chocolate almond snacks that they have. That are.
I see. I see what you're saying.
And they're marketed as protein foods. Now, I feel bad. I'm picking on Quest because tons of companies are guilty of this because everybody knows that.
Yeah, there's these cookies I see that say that they're protein cookies, but if you look at them, it's like a 400-calorie cookie. And
right, and then it has like 10 grams of protein, right? But they market it as a protein food because they put more protein in it, but it's really not a protein food. When you look at the percentage of the protein in ratio to the total calories, if it's not above 25, it's not a protein food, and you're really eating carbohydrates, sugars, and fats with sprinkled a little bit of protein. It's a glorified candy bar.
Which if you're trying to eat more calories, I guess is okay. But if you're trying to supplement with protein.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Most people are trying to. What is that one, Doug? What is that?
I think this is the peanut butter one. I'm trying to expand it out, but.
Yeah, it would be good to see what those macros look like.
It's getting smaller instead of bigger.
No. The peanut butter cups.
That's the peanut butter cups. Yeah, this one. So it's 190 calories, of which 11 grams are protein.
What's the percentage?
What's the rest?
The percentage is what we're talking about.
22%.
So 22, and that's not horrible.
That's not horrible.
But it's lower.
Right.
So now it wouldn't. So I used to tell clients this. So back when I had clients and I would tell them to go after protein food, I would actually teach them the percentage, not the grams. Because what I found
was
you're
just getting a bunch of extra calories.
That's right. Because most clients are trying to lose body fat, lose weight. So we're looking for high protein dense foods And obviously, if you're not going to get a chicken breast, you're not going to get steak, you're not going to get fish, you're not going to get the ones I want whole foods first.
Got it.
But if you're going to eat something in a wrapper or a can or a box, and it's considered a quote unquote, they're marketing to you as protein, flip it around, and if it's under 25, throw that shit away.
Do you know I used to do this when I would try to bulk, because when you're a kid and you're trying to bulk, you just think every calorie doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember figuring that something like a pound of pasta had like 30 something grams of protein. So I was like, let's do this. I'm gonna get all my
I
protein.
did the same thing with canned raviolis.
Yeah,
I did the same
oh,
thing.
yeah,
I used to eat the smash
What's
those.
that one, Doug?
You're looking at all the bars now.
Yeah, this is the chocolate peanut
That's the
butter.
same.
Oh, the bars are gonna have the same.
Yeah, all the bars are gonna be like the birthday
I
cake.
see.
Look at all the other protein snacks. The,
Okay,
the,
I got
the
it.
chocolate almonds, the Reese's peanut butter cups, all the other ones that are in there. Which, by the way, that's what my point was. I have a lot of those. I don't have a lot of just the healthy bars in there because they taste the best.
Yeah.
And it was actually something I hadn't looked at in a while until I gave my son a bite. And that's what made me go, you know what? I haven't even checked myself. Something I used to teach to clients to be aware of. I fell right into the marketing trap of, it's a Quest bar. It's it's this, and it's got protein in it. Okay, buying it. And then I realized when I like how amazing it tastes. And I'm like, let me look at the back of this. I'm like, oh shit, this is not.
I guess we're not getting sponsored by Quest.
Yeah, that far left one.
This one right here.
Far left.
Oh,
I think that's what I'm talking. Yeah, I think that's the caramel one. Yeah.
Just the bars, I guess.
Yeah. All right, no more sponsor.
I know, no, I did, and the point was not. I mean, this is just me sharing my story. This is like super popular with cereals, with pastas.
The cereals is a big one because when I was a kid, I would try and find high protein cereal, and it would say high protein. It was like 6 grams
Yeah.
in a serving, which is like what?
Well, I don't think Quest is actually marketing these as protein rich, right? This, for example, this one has 5 grams. It is their gooey caramel candy bites.
So it's not marketed as protein.
Yeah, they
but
have
you may
protein
think so.
bars.
Well, you are because it's packaged in the box right next to the protein bars. It looks exactly like it. It shows you how low of calorie it is. I mean, you're right.
So-
You got to read the label. That's basically the message.
I got a question to ask you guys because I just noticed we covered before like the Impossible Burger and Beyond Burger and all that stuff. Like it sort of dipped in sales and like they're pulling it out of certain fast food chains. Meanwhile, I just saw like Kevin Hart just opened up a fast food chain that was all like plant based.
Really?
Yes, like, and so I was curious as to speculate like if that was going to be successful or not.
Of course it will,
Right?
especially if you open it in
because it's
LA.
Kevin Hart, but yeah,
If it's Kevin Hart, he opened it up in LA or
has
New
to be
York, LA or New York. It'll crush.
It has to be delicious if it's not.
Did you guys ever see that whole documentary on that the one vegan girl that was that crazy? It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
That high end. She did like a real high end vegan restaurant. That there's a crazy story about.
You know what?
In LA, there's a huge.
I
one.
bet you the
behind
opposite.
that.
I bet you if you opened a restaurant and it was like all about like meat or some shit like that, I bet that would crush now. I know they used to call those barbecue joints, but
yeah.
I bet if you marketed it that way, it would crush because it's opposing.
I think
current
you're
Like
I
back
think-
in the day with the KFC where they had 2 chicken breasts with sandwich with like meat in the middle.
Yeah.
I think per
so mad I never
usual,
tried that.
I think per usual, you are ahead of the curve when it comes to health and fitness, and so I think you're wrong right now. You're right down the road.
Yeah.
Because you in our bubble in our space this message is slowly starting to die,
Yep.
but that message is still rising. I mean, those What the Health was, didn't you tell me the other day, it was like the most watched documentary of all time or some crazy
Look at that. That's what he's serving there.
Yeah, he's got burgers and he has chicken sandwiches. The burgers are plant-based, but the chicken sandwich looks like it's actually chicken.
But they don't call it's not chicken. It's chick apostrophe N.
I know, but it says with plant-based mayo. So they don't say it's plant-based.
Oh,
They
so
say
may-
the burgers are plant-based, but they don't say the chicken.
Oh, so the whole thing's not a vegan fast food.
Interesting.
Yeah, so maybe part of it is.
Okay.
Well, that will do
Well,
fun. That, I mean, then you're still.
Here's the bottom line. If it tastes really good, if it's super palatable, then it'll do well. That's the truth for any market, whether
Totally.
it's health or not.
Did anybody ever eat the Impossible Burger? I told you guys. I
Didn't
asked them.
Doug, you said you
I
had
tried one because I was at somebody's house and they served it.
He's like angry about it still.
Yeah, I'm still angry about
Did they
it.
tell you ahead of time?
That's
it
how
was
I
Oh,
not-
they did tell me about it, but that was the only food
That's
I
how
had.
I felt when I ate some.
Bro.
My mother-in-law had chicken nuggets that someone had get left her, and they were on the counter like that, and I was like picking at it. And
You're like,
I
this is
didn't-
weird.
Yeah, I didn't know. It actually tasted all right, dude. Be just
They engineered
the
the shit out
burger
of 'em.
was not like meat in my mind.
I had, dude.
yeah.
When I was up at the weekend at Tahoe, they were gonna go grocery shopping, my cousins, And they're like, what do you want to eat? And I was joking. So I'm like, get me Impossible patties, because that's what I'm going to eat. I'm going plant-based, right? Because I'm the fitness guy, right? Everybody turned their head like, what? And I'm like, I'm just kidding. I'm not a pussy or whatever. Anyway, my buddy next to me, by the way, if you're vegan, you're not a pussy. This is just me joking. But I didn't know this.
Nice caveat.
I didn't know this. His buddy, his long-term, lifelong friend, is a hardcore vegan, standing right next to me.
Totally insulted.
Dude, I said that. And my cousin starts laughing. He goes, dude, Rich is vegan, bro. And I looked at, and he looked at, I'm like, I'm sorry, I was totally joking, buddy. I was just a big joke or whatever. I said, you listen to my show, because I do talk about, I tried to put my arm around him, he kind of moved away from me. I was like, oh man, I got to make up to this guy. Anyway.
You know what's funny though? Like if you were the opposite, if you were a meat eater and you tease a meat eater like that, I don't feel like it would be a sensitive thing.
No, I don't think. Look, you guys, look. If you listen to my show, I believe that that you can eat. There's many different ways to eat that can be healthy, and I'll respect it, especially if it's done for the right reasons. That was obviously a joke, but I had no idea. He doesn't listen to my show, so all he knows is I said that. So I looked at his face and he was like,
it's funny you just said that, because I was like, you just slid that in there like for the right reasons. Do you know what percentage, have we looked up, what's the percentage that do it for like moral reasons?
oh.
Do you know the percentage?
I know the people who
it's
stick to
less-
it are typically the ones.
Yeah,
that
No,
do it.
I know that, but I mean, I think it's a very small
Yeah,
percentage.
It is.
I don't think it's as much as you'd hope.
So,
No, it's
so
not.
you're
Go
still
that direction.
insulting like 90% of the people though.
I know. Dude. Plus, I just met. Like, I haven't seen this guy in like forever.
You're
And I
like,
said
so what
that.
are the reasons that you're doing it? Just curious.
No. After that, I
Trying to
told
do
him, I'm like, no,
better.
dude, I'm totally joking. But if you listen to my show, this is how I actually talk about it. Because when you with your buddies, you talk a lot of shit.
I love that we have a diehard fan. Okay, they listen. I have no idea who's behind the handle. They listen to every show because I see them comment on YouTube all the time.
They hate it when we say anything about veganism.
He or she, I don't even know if it's guy or girl, is a hardcore vegan. And anytime vegan comes out of our mouth at all, or anything,
They go nuts.
They go nuts. They go on there like crazy.
Well, they have
but
to go
obviously they
nuts for the
support the
protein.
show. I mean, they comment every time, so I know they listen to every show. So shout out.
They're
to,
obviously doing it right. They have enough energy to type all those words. So,
Barely.
hey, what kind of training do you do? Do you like strength training, body weight training, weightlifting, Olympic lifting, powerlifting? PRX has it all. This is equipment for your home that folds into the wall, so it takes up very little space, but is extremely sturdy, like commercial gym equipment. It's the best equipment. We have it here at Mind Pump Studios. That's what we work out with. And the best part is you can either pay it all up front, or you could do monthly like a gym membership, except it's in your home. That means you can listen to whatever music you want. You can wear whatever you want when you work out. You don't have to shower like Justin. He likes to work out and stink. It's awesome. Go check this company out. Head over to prxperformance.com/mindpump, and you'll automatically get a discount because you went through that link. All right, here comes the rest of the show.
Our first caller is Gina from Maryland.
Hi, Gina. How can we help you?
Hi. First, I was going to say thanks so much for having me. I've been listening to the podcast for a while and have really learned a lot. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank
Nice.
So I'll just read my question. So I've been strength training for about 2 years. Last year, I decided I wanted to restructure a little bit and start working towards specific goals. And so, for example, I set a deadlifting goal weight and really structured my workouts around a deadlift specifically. And so I did end up reaching that goal, but found that towards the end, I was really struggling with overtraining and burnout. I'd never followed a workout program before, so I decided to switch things up, and I purchased the MAP, the Butt Builder mod, which includes anabolic and aesthetic. And so I ran through those programs, anabolic and then aesthetic, and really enjoyed having that structured program. Really enjoyed the full body days. But after phase one, I realized the rep ranges like shoot up. For example, like 8 to 12 reps of deadlift, which really just seems kind of crazy to me since I'm used to working in that lower rep range. And so, I think I've learned that I really enjoy training in that low rep range to reach more strength goals. And found that with those high rep ranges, I feel like I'm plateauing more easily and just kind of struggling to kind of get through it. And so I, especially when I have to do, those like super sets, really high rep ranges. So I think it would help me in terms of motivation to hear your explanations for why training in such high rep ranges for heavy compound movements like squats and deadlifts is beneficial compared to low rep ranges. And then maybe hearing your opinions on if it's necessary to try to get those high reps or if it's fine to just kind of stay in that lower rep range and shoot for strength.
If you stick to a rep range all the time, you start to run into problems. Now, typically in the low rep ranges, you start to get joint issues. Your strength stops improving. You don't get as much muscle hypertrophy. So changing even competitive powerlifters go through phases where they do higher reps for what they'll say is more muscle hypertrophy. Then they feel stronger, more stable. Now, the answer to this is actually quite easy. I know what you're doing. You're going too heavy when you go 8 to 12.
Yep.
You got to go much lighter. So when you go 8 to 12, you go way lighter with the load because you're going too heavy with the 8 to 12, and that's why you're feeling kind of burned out. It's a very different feel when you're going from sets of 3 to sets of 8 or 10, especially in a lift like a deadlift. Like if I'm doing sets of 3, for example, I might go as high as, let's say, 495. If I'm doing sets of 10, I rarely go above 350. Rarely. And that's a big difference. That's a big difference in weight. I probably will keep it around 315, and I'm deadlifting more like a bodybuilder. What I mean by that is I'm focusing on the squeeze and the form and the control, and I'm not trying to push the load like I am when I'm going low rep. So that's the challenge. The challenge is you're going into the second phase with the mentality that you have with the first phase, and that's definitely going to burn you out.
Gina, how old are you?
27.
Yeah, as you get older too, you're gonna find that spending an extended period of time in the low reps and lifting heavy is going to be extremely taxing,
especially as you get stronger.
Yeah, I mean, right now, being young and fit, you probably feel pretty resilient, and maybe you don't feel a lot of the adverse effects of that, but that'll come, I promise, if you continue to lift that way. Like, it's so, and that's aside from all the results and benefits you get by cycling through. I mean, some of the best results I've seen is by just being consistent with me moving out of my rep ranges, right? Every 3 to 4 weeks, moving into a new rep range and continuing on. I've seen some of the best gains in my physique and in my strength. So aside from that, just staying in that heavy, 5x5 type of training, eventually your joints will start talking to you when you do that. And what I find today, being 40, I spend the least amount of time lifting that way. I do just enough to know that I get tremendous benefits from strength by training in a cycle of like 5x5 or what we would do, MAPS anabolic phase 1. And then I got to get out of it because it's addicting to stay in it because I love to see myself getting stronger. I feel good when I rip heavy weight off the ground, but I've definitely made the connection of how much better my body feels in the higher rep range. And I just think for longevity, you'll eventually need to piece this together.
Was it Stan Efferding that was talking about that? Like
yeah.
a major shift in his training to start doing higher reps and his body completely, transformed from there. So it's like, it's just like anything they're saying. It's a completely different mentality and shift of focus going into that style of training, which I think maybe there's a bit of disconnect there, trying to apply the same, process within that, but to focus a little bit more on what type of connection you can get to your specific muscles, not necessarily the movement of it.
Yeah.
You just gave a fitness tip on this the other day.
I did.
The Ben Pakulski one right now. It's like the mindset has to change to you feeling the muscle now. Like that's instead of you getting like the power and strength of ripping the weight off the floor or getting out of the hole from a squat, it now shifts over to slowing down the tempo, and I want to feel the muscle through the entire movement and the squeeze of it. It's a total different mindset.
Yeah, the weight is okay. Weight that you're on the bar is important to pay attention to. It's much more important to pay attention to it in phase 1. When you get to phase 2 and phase 3, it's really not that important. And don't use phase 1's weights as a reference necessarily. And the mentality is very different. So go into phase 2 and think, okay, I'm going to do 10 reps and I want to feel the muscles that I'm working and I want to feel good. I don't want to feel burnt out. Whatever weight fits that is the right weight, okay? In phase 1, it's a bit of a different mentality. Also, back to Adam's point, the stronger you get, the higher the risk versus reward ratio is with heavy lifts. Like when you're training low reps and you're deadlifting 135, the risk the injury risk is there, but it's not as high as when you're doing it with 225. And then if you get up to 250 or 315, it gets even higher. So this mentality shift is you're going to have to start doing it. And I know it's fun. I enjoy phase 1 style training more than the others. But when I would go into phase 2 and 3 and I didn't entirely shift my mindset, I would 100% go through what you're going through, which is I felt burnt out. But it was just because I was approaching it the wrong way. It's a totally different mindset.
2 in the tank.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. So even if my goals are mostly strength based instead of more like, I guess, aesthetically based, I should still go through those phases of starting low and doing high reps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They all contribute.
The body gets adapted to whatever we throw at it, and if you consistently lift like a 5x5 type of style, even if you are seeing some gains, they're going to slow down dramatically. And simply shifting out of that, temporarily into a higher rep range and then coming back to it, you will get stronger faster.
Yeah,
that way.
Gina, are you planning on competing in a strength sport like powerlifting?
No, it's just for fun.
Have you followed our MAPS Powerlift program?
No, I've never really followed like a powerlifting.
Okay, you should definitely follow MAPS
After
Powerlift.
MAPS Anabolic, go into MAPS Powerlift because I think you'll love it. But don't do MAPS Powerlift indefinitely. So follow it once and then go back to something else. But that MAPS Powerlift may be the program that you always go back to after you interrupt it with another program if you enjoy that aspect of training.
Ideally, for overall health, if we were to take you a step further, I would go powerlift, and then you need to go to something like symmetry or performance after that, because
then you can go back to powerlift.
Anabolic followed by powerlift without any sort of moving in different planes or mobility focus would be detrimental. So I would go anabolic, powerlift, and then either run symmetry or performance.
And then you can go back to powerlift.
That's right.
Okay.
We'll send that to you, okay, Gina?
Great. Yeah, that makes sense.
You got it. Also,
Thanks so much.
I love hearing.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
I love hearing a 25-year-old female say she's interested in the strength more than the aesthetics. That's such a great, healthy attitude. Awesome. And the side effect of that, Gina, is you're gonna look great. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So.
Yeah, it took a long time to be able to admit that, because I think a lot of females feel like it, but I have so much more strength.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Gina. I never would have imagined when I got into fitness 20 years ago or more than 20 years ago that I'd have a 20-something-year-old girl tell me, I like the strength part.
Yeah.
That's like so rare. So I love hearing it. But I mean, she's going to run into the same pitfalls that, everybody else does when they fall in love with a particular style of training. Is eventually the benefits start to taper off, and the only thing you start to get are increased risks of certain issues. And I know that's me too. And you just start to get it in your joints, and your strength stops going up. Yep. And then I switch to 10 reps, and I do that for 4 weeks. I go back to my strength, and boom, I'm stronger. It's like, oh, why didn't I do this before?
Well, when the goal is to see your deadlift, squat, bench, it continually get better and better as far as the amount of weight you're lifting, and then you have to move into this like 8 to 10 rep range. Obviously, you have to dramatically drop that, right? And the mindset is supposed to shift, and so it's a psychological game,
it's an ego shift.
Yeah, it's like
totally.
my goal is to see more weight on the bar, yet here I am training with significantly less weight on the bar for the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's a bit of a mind fuck for most people that are very focused on the strength side to want to do that. And it can be very addicting to want to swing back into that, especially when you're young and you're not getting, it's easy for me now because my body starts talking to me real quick. You know, I'll go, oh, I'm going to do another week of this heavy lifting. And then it's like, oh, okay, now that's why I feel like
this is where programs really come in as benefit because it takes you through that.
It's written.
Yeah, it's written. Like, this is what I'm doing next. Like, you plan ahead for that, so that way it still benefits you to come back and increase your lifts and still focus on that. But you need to do what's beneficial for your body to be able to keep performing at a high level.
And I can't stress this enough. It's not just a little lighter. It's a lot lighter. Strength people need to understand this. It's like I squat with 500 pounds, so if I go down to 400, then I'll do 10 reps. No, go down to 300 and do the 10 reps. You got to go way lighter. It's totally different.
Our next caller is Ethan from the UK.
Ethan, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hi, yeah, I had a question about periodizing my training for different. Sorry, let me get it up. It'll just be easier if I get it up. Sorry, I had a question about periodizing my training about different goals and like my current dilemmas. So I'm currently like 21 and I've had like a few different injuries. I've played around with different like split training and like volume and like my frequency and that. And I've started a certification for my personal training, but like I've always been riddled with injuries, whether it's playing sports or whatever. And like what it feels like whatever I'm doing after a few months when I get back to full fitness, it's kind of like I just get hit with another injury and I'm just kind of like wondering what could I be doing, or is there something wrong that I'm doing in my training?
Well, we want to know a little more about the injury, right? So what types of injuries are we talking about? And
what does your training look like?
Is it like, are you getting injured like during a lift? Or is it just chronic nagging pain? Like, give us a little more detail.
It started off like a few years back, just before I got like fully into like the gym and like lifting and fitness and all that. But I had like I ruptured my ACL, my left ACL. I had some like meniscus damage in that. And then I got healed, went for a surgery, got healed, and I spent a lot of time doing rehab, so I know how important it is. And then a few months later, I had another groin injury, so I tried to rehab that. And then my last injury was what I'm guessing is a rotator cuff injury. I went through a few different physios and that, and they were all kind of didn't give me like any definitive answer.
Well, how are you hurting? Like each time, like, so how did the ACL go? How did the groin go? Yeah.
So yeah, with the ACL, that happened like it was like an impact into like the inside of my leg, and that just let it crunch, and my knee gave way, sort of thing. But with the shoulder injury, like this wasn't anything direct. I think it was from when I was just leaning in an awkward way in my car, and I kind of just dislodged it. But I'm not too sure. I don't know how I done it. I just remember the next time I was lifting, like I having pain there, sort of thing. And I've only just recently got over it. But every time I'm getting back to full fitness, that's when I'm having some troubles a few months later.
Ethan, are you really flexible?
Yeah, pretty flexible. I work a lot on mobility. Yeah.
You might just lack stability, and in other words, your strength might not support the flexibility that you have. I've trained people like you where they've got really good flexibility, but they lack the stability to support it. And so when they move outside, because what gave that away was you saying you were leaning in your car and you felt your shoulder kind of give way. That's a stability issue. Now, here's the bottom line. I mean, ideally, you're going to want to work with someone that's going to really break down and identify what's happening with you, but I can send you a program that I think will benefit you tremendously. I think map symmetry will highlight these imbalances in your right to left and work on stability naturally if you follow the program as it's laid out.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at map symmetry because most of the injuries that I've had, whether it's been like a tweak in my back and I've had to just like rehab that, or like my rotator cuff, it's always been on my right side. And I have noticed like having some muscle imbalances, not something that's like drastically noticeable, but something that I can notice. So I was having a look into like map symmetry, but I don't know. I thought it was maybe because I'm doing too much. Like I think I've got a tendency to want to do like too much in the gym, or like in like my life at home, or like do too much like rehab, or I don't even know. But then I'm thinking it could be down to recovery, but I'm not too sure. But
I mean, it could be all three of those things, actually. I mean, if you got the athletic mindset, you could be getting after it too much, and then you could be also not allowing the body to recovery, and then you could also need more stability. And still, the prescription would look the same from what Sal's saying. I think that no matter if it's all three of those things, I would still steer you in the direction of map symmetry, because it's going to, one, slow you down. You're going to have to do isometrics, which is also going to give you better connection. And then it's going to work on all unilateral training, which is going to balance out the body better. So I think those things are, no matter what, the prescription is going to be the same. Ideally, to Sal's point, having somebody who can be there to assess you. But if at the bare minimum, I would be running a program like that.
Yeah, you may find you need to dial down your intensity, your volume a bit, allow your body to fully recover. But to Sal's point, most athletes that have these reoccurring injuries or injuries that kind of spawn from one part of the kinetic chain to the other, it's all typically it's an instability that's not being addressed. And so to kind of take your time through that and really sort of detective your way back and to find out what the root of it all is going to be massively beneficial for you to then build upon that and become stronger and more effective in terms of your performance.
Yeah, my guess is going to be that your flexibility and your stability aren't necessarily matched. And the ACL injury, you got hit in the knee, so that could happen to anybody. But that's probably why your groin got pulled afterwards, because whatever
left side. So it's just putting stress on other joints, and it's just weren't
compensating
really,
all the way up.
Yeah. So in what I want you to do with symmetry is I want you to, we tell everybody this, but I'm going to make this a point. Start with the side that is weaker with all the exercises, and then that's going to dictate how many reps you do with the other side. Even if the other side feels way stronger, just follow the weaker side. The whole program's about 12 weeks, and you should notice some pretty good balancing effects from following a program like that. And it's so, the reason why it's so effective is because regardless of what your issue is, it tends to get highlighted and corrected because you're doing one side at a time. So it's really a general program that tends to work really well with lots of different specific issues. So we'll send that over to you, okay?
That'd be great. Thank you. I mean, I tend to flutter between hypertrophy training and more strength training, but I do chuck a lot of isolation and unilateral movements in there, just because I want the symmetry to still be there, and I want the muscles to be balanced, right? But I have noticed my left side is a lot stronger. Yeah. Even it was my left ACL that I tore, and now getting back to full fitness, my left leg is a lot stronger than my right leg. Not a lot, but I can notice a difference. So maybe, something like a symmetry program to kind of bring the lagging side of my body up.
On that longer.
Yeah, symmetry is all.
Allow yourself to be in there a bit longer.
Yeah, so just throwing in some unilateral stuff is good, but making it a focus for an entire block of training, that's I think what you need to do. So that's what map symmetry is.
So symmetry is going to be great for you.
Yeah, follow that and then see how you feel afterwards.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to say I'm a huge fan. I've been listening for I don't know, a year and a half now, and I feel I've learned so much from you guys. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, appreciate
very much.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks for calling.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's when you get that, I'm sure you guys have worked with people like this. They'll get one injury, and then it's after that, lots of injuries, and it's all connected to
knee turns into hip issue, turns into opposite shoulder issue.
Especially when you're talking to an athlete, because you get the knee injury, ankle, could be anything, right? And then they rehab it, so
they go play,
and then they go play. And when you play a sport, sports are explosive and dynamic. And when you call upon the body to do something explosive and dynamic, and there's a breakdown somewhere in the kinetic chain,
it just figures a way around it.
That's right. So now, even though his knee has rehabbed and it can function walking and squatting and doing pretty basic movements, but then he goes back to do an explosive soccer move or something, it's it isn't the same, and it hasn't, and you have to kind of train it all the way back up to that and balance everything out. Otherwise, other parts of the body overcompensate, and then they get injured because it's oh, we've never torqued on the hips like that, because normally the ACL and the knee support this movement, and because they haven't been trained up properly.
And here's what it is that there's two things. One is, in isolation, your knee may be just as strong as it was before.
That's right.
But your body has a memory. You have an emotional connection to that injury. So even if everything theoretically could work like it did before. Like when you get an
It
injury,
still wants to protect you from that.
yeah, I mean, when you hurt yourself, everybody knows this. I've hurt myself real bad. I am wary of doing lifts that work that area. It takes me a while to build up the confidence. And that's what I'm aware of, not let alone what I'm not aware of. So so just rehabbing doesn't mean you're ready to go back to what you were doing before. I've had to tell people this many times. Like, great, I'm glad you rehabbed. We still got time. We still have a lot of time to get you back to where you were, how you were moving before.
Our next caller is Emmy from Illinois.
Hey, Emmy, how can we help you?
Hi, guys. So thanks for having me on. I've been listening for the past 5 years, and I've internalized all the wisdom that you share on the podcast, kind of to the point where you're like the little voices in the back of my head. So it's really cool to be here and to talk to you face to face, as it were. So thanks for taking the time to take my question.
Awesome.
Right on.
I'll just dive right into it. So I'm a fencer. I competed in high school and college, but I haven't practiced fencing for a few years since graduating in 2019. So a bit about the sport. Fencing is an Olympic sport. It's highly explosive. There's a lot of lateral movement, quick changes of direction. So in some ways, it's kind of similar to tennis or basketball. And I want to get back into it. Nothing crazy, just practicing maybe once a week, mostly for the mental health benefits, because my fitness goals are longevity. The major concern I have, though, is that my strength to weight ratio is pretty off from my performance peak. So I'm concerned that I'll injure myself if I just dive right back in. So my question is, how would you guys recommend I train to prepare myself for fencing again?
Wow, it's funny.
Smart.
What's funny, Emmy?
Yeah,
As
great
I went
question.
through a period of watching fencing videos on YouTube.
Did you really?
I swear to God.
Awesome.
It's so fascinating.
It is.
What level did you compete at?
So I competed at the club level for college and then also at national tournaments. So
Pretty high
you
level.
can either compete on a team, which is what I did for college, and we were club champions for 3 out of the 4 years that I was there.
Mhm.
And then you can also compete like nationally or internationally. So
Okay.
I mean, I'm not at like the Olympic level, but I was definitely.
So if there was an intruder in your house, are you more likely to grab your sword than grab like a gun or something?
So
Just curious.
I have
my
a question,
deathly range is like 6 feet away. So if you're closer to me than that, I'm useless.
Are you exercising regularly now? Are you still working out?
So, great question. So I live a pretty active lifestyle, so I'm getting over 10,000 steps per day for sure. But I'm taking it pretty low volume on training. I'm a PhD student, so I work a ton and I really leave it all in the field at work kind of a thing. So I fall into the trap of feeling like I don't have time, and I particularly don't have energy to be really crushing at the gym. So I'm trying to do at least once a week, getting in a nice full body workout. But that's another complication of, the advice I'm asking for is something that fits my schedule.
Yeah,
as well.
well, I got something for you, Emmy. Would it be possible for you to practice 1 or 2 lifts a day? Would take you about 15 to 20 minutes. Would that be something you could do where you just go 1 or 2 lifts and then you're done, but do that on a daily basis?
Yeah, that fits great. There's actually a gym in between my house and my work. So if I'm walking to work, which I'm trying to do to get my steps in, then that would be very reasonable.
Okay, believe it or not, that's actually going to give you better results than the once a week full body
15
workout.
to 20 minutes.
Just
Okay.
Yep, literally go to the gym, pick 1 or 2 compound, full body lifts, so like a squat or a deadlift or an overhead press or a lunge, or you can even pick a couple isolation exercises to make up for the fact that it's not compound. Do 15 to 20 minutes, practice the lift, so keep the intensity moderate high, not high. You'll get great results. As far as fencing is concerned, this is going to be a mindset thing. So when you get into the training of it, or you're going to have to go slow because you got to relearn your body. It's like you said earlier, you mentioned strength to weight ratio. It's not the same body. You haven't practiced as like you did before. So you're going to have to go into it and try your hardest, really fight your competitive urge to kick someone's ass and just go real slow, real easy, and then slowly allow yourself to feel comfortable moving. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get it back into fencing. Because the strength training is going to help, but it's you still have to practice the skill of fencing. So start really slow and give yourself a long time. Like say, okay, I'm going to do 6 months of taking it easy before I start to test myself a little bit, but 6 months of consistent practice.
Anytime you're going to place your body again in like that like high intense explosive type movement and you haven't done it for a long period of time, or you're, you know, trying something new in that direction, like the effort and intensity on like trying to strength train and be resilient to that is one thing, but also the mobility and the reinforcing your joints has to be a really high priority in combination with that. So you're always kind of checking the stability of the joints, the range of motion necessary for you to pull off some of these moves and to be able to stabilize quickly with that and decelerate your body just as much as you're accelerating your body. So just to keep that in mind, like that should be a high priority for you either before priming and then also, you know, sort of the work after that in terms of mobilizing your joints.
I'm going to stress the point that Justin and Sal both are making even more. So I don't know how long you've been listening to the show, but during the time that we've been recording the show, I tore my Achilles. And I tore my Achilles from the exact thing that you're talking about right now is my strength to weight ratio did not match what it did when I played basketball. When I played basketball competitively, I was like 180 pounds. Like then all of a sudden I became this big meathead, okay, 230 pounds and strong. And because I felt, you know, I was still I was in shape, I was in good shape. I thought I could go out and play basketball. And I even thought, oh, what I'll do is I'll just go do some pickup games at 24 Hour Fitness. So not real competitive, like not on the highest level, but because I still have that athletic mindset when I hit the court, as you probably do when you pick up the fencing, same thing. Like, and I blew my Achilles and I was not even going really, really hard, but the ratio was off and my Achilles just weren't ready for that type of movement. So be very, very careful and cautious of that, especially like the Achilles. And to reinforce that, you know, I wish I would have followed our friend Corey Schlesinger. He puts together a lot of really good like training exercises to reinforce the joint mobility and strength, especially in the ankle, the knee, and the hip area, he's specific to basketball. So even though it's not fencing, I think a lot of those movement and exercises has carryover to supporting what you're trying to do. So take a look at his Instagram, and I will have somebody tag it on this. What it is, I think is it Schlesinger Training, or I forget what Corey is.
Strength.
What is it?
Strength.
Okay, Strength. And we'll tag it on this episode or whatever so you can see it. Yeah. But take a look. He's got a lot of really cool exercises that
assisted plyometrics and things like that you can still get the response, but do it in a way where you're not adding damage. I do have a very specific question though I wanted to ask you. Like, can you watch Zorro without like totally being cringe?
So I would underscore again that this is the Olympic sport of fencing. So we move like forward and back on a piste. Like it's very
there's no jumping.
So you're not
very
jumping on
formulaic.
tables.
So it's not like movie fencing.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Listen, I mean, the biggest challenge for you, I'm going to tell you right now. You said you're studying for a PhD. Is going to be consistency. 1 or 2 exercises a day. That's it. Literally, you walk in the gym, go in, and pick from squats, deadlifts, overhead presses, lunges, rows, bench presses, you know, all the compound kind of basic lifts, and just pick 1 or 2, practice them, and in and out, 20 minutes, do that every single day. You'll be blown away by the results you get. And it'll be better than doing 1 full body workout a week. It'll actually be better than that. So just start with that. And then when you go practice, you know, go real easy.
And keep in mind, you are, just so you know, you're throwing a bit at yourself. Okay, you're not really lifting consistently right now. Sal's advice is perfect for like you want to maintain a healthy, fit, strong, good-looking physique. Like that is perfect. You also kind of have this like, oh, and I also would like to get back into fencing a little bit, which is a total different goal and would require a different discipline. So you are, and then, oh, by the way, I'm going to go get my PhD. Okay. Yeah. So you are biting off quite a bit right here, just so you know. And personally, I would probably pick one of those 2 things as far as what's going on with my training that I would probably focus on currently right now. Not that you can't necessarily do both, but you are asking a lot to say, hey, I have a total different strength to weight ratio now. I recognize that I probably need to get which is very smart, because if not, you probably will do something to your Achilles, knees, or your hips. So knowing that you need to address that. And then at the same time too, you're like, I'm limited to the time that I can lift weights, and I also want to be overall healthy. So I would try, if you were my client, I'd be like, hey, can we right, you're in the middle of this PhD. Can we just do the advice Sal's saying and just be strong and fit? And then maybe over
Wait,
time,
see how you feel.
Yeah, wait, see how you feel, get in the rhythm of that. And then I'll start to give you little bits of this Corey Schlesinger guy's movements, and I'll start adding those into your routine. Because a lot of that stuff you could do either at home or in those small training blocks that Sal's talking about, and start kind of building that resiliency up. To kind of do both all at once, you might be setting yourself up for failure. And I think it would be an incredible accomplishment to do either one of those simultaneously, but while getting your PhD.
Yeah, see what happens. What are you studying, by the way?
I do cell biology, so particularly infectious
easy
diseases.
stuff,
So it's very topical right now.
Awesome. Well, good. I'm glad you're doing that. That's we need more scientists in that field. But
Yeah, of course.
so practice the lifts every day. Just do that. See how you feel. I think you'll be very surprised.
Yeah, thank you.
You got
Thank
it.
you for helping me balance my different goals, and obviously much love. Thanks for everything that you guys do and building up this great community.
Thanks,
Thank
Emmy.
you.
Right
Appreciate
on.
it.
Thanks.
Yeah, dude, fencing's crazy, bro. If you ever watch the competition,
fun
first
to
of all,
watch, dude.
it took me a while to figure out who the hell made the point. Like you see them,
Yeah.
beep.
Well,
You're
could you
huh?
imagine-
Sometimes they both stab
Could you
each other.
imagine
I'm
being
like,
the
wait a minute.
intruder and she grabs her fucking sword?
Bro, get out of there.
You're fucked. She does like some little warm
But
up
it's
real
the
quick.
kind that like just skewers you, right? It's not like a slicing. It's
You're
just
like, see, you didn't even do anything. You look down. Oh,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you know, she's okay. So, okay, I already know this personality type. PhD student, was a competitive athlete. She's
High achiever, dude.
Yeah, very likely to be like, I'll do it all,
Right.
Sure.
and burn herself out. That's why I'm like, look, just go. And I also know like it's harder for somebody with a busy schedule to pick an hour a week to take that out of their schedule versus just 15 minutes a day. You know,
Yeah.
just go do one lift. That's it. And she said it perfect. On the way to work or on the way to school, I do my lift or two, and then I go back at it. And I think that would be
great.
best
No,
of
your
both.
advice around that I think is absolutely perfect. My concern with her is that she's also wanting to do it while also get back
Yeah,
into fencing. Because I mean, I have this feeling right now. Like I've been saying this for a while. I really want to get back into playing basketball, and I've been telling myself, and I haven't been putting the training in. And the truth is, I also want to stay fit and muscular, and so that's been taking enough of my time just kind of balancing that out. And so I've, passed up on going down and playing ball, even though I really want to, because I know better. I know that I'm not putting the work in necessary to really protect myself from not getting hurt. And I know my mentality going into playing that sport is I don't have this like, oh, I'll just kind of play slow with everybody and let everybody whoop my ass. Like that's not happening, dude.
Yeah.
So I would prefer her if I could, convince her just to do your advice.
Yeah, same.
You know what I'm saying? And get fit, get strong, see how you feel.
And then just take it from there.
Yeah, and then and then if you really then want to also, then we'll add in, let's start adding in some mobility work and some plyometrics and some things to benefit.
Adam, you got to start at the elementary, right? That's what I do. I go to my kids' school. I dominate them. I move to the junior high.
Just dunk on them.
Go to high school. It's levels.
What if we totally misunderstood and she said competitive fencing? It's literally people building fences so you could do it the fastest. You imagine that?
I didn't imagine it at all.
Our next caller is Granny Guns from Pennsylvania.
Oh my good! I've seen you on the talks. How you doing?
Guns. What's
How you
up?
doing, Granny?
I'm ready.
Excellent. What's your question? How can we help you?
Okay. First question is going to be, what are some of the most common misconceptions about lifting at an older age? And how can those misconceptions be dispelled?
Oh, great question. One of the number one misconceptions is that strength training is dangerous, and that if you have joint pain, strength training makes the joint pain worse. So I would get clients, let's say over the age of 65, for example, and they say, well, I can't do anything that involves my knees because it's going to make my knees worse. That's totally false. Now, of course, you have to train appropriately, but strengthening the muscles that support the joints makes the pain much less. And in fact, oftentimes actually corrects the issue in the first place, and the pain is gone completely. So proper strength training is one of the best forms of exercise to fight some of the things that happen to our bodies as they age, and this includes pain.
It's the best anti-aging thing you can do.
There's also this idea that you cannot be in the best shape of your life when you're the oldest you've ever been, right? So I've had many clients that are 65 years old and can say that I am healthier, fitter, and stronger, Adam, today at 65 than I was at 25 or 35. And a lot of people think that you can't do that, and you absolutely can get in the best shape of your life, even in advanced age.
I agree 100% because I am a classic example of that. I had knee pain and I started exercising, and it has improved my knee joints and the support around my kneecaps. And I don't have the knee pain that I had 8 years ago.
Excellent.
That's awesome. What else you got for us?
The next question is the benefits of lifting at an older age, which you've already expressed some of, physically, but mentally also, and how it can be preventative for some health issues for people at an older age.
Oh boy, it's the only form of exercise that has been shown to kind of stop the progression of the amyloid beta plaques that seem to be associated with Alzheimer's. Now, it doesn't. We know it doesn't now. It doesn't cause the symptoms, but there is some kind of a connection. And strength training, there was a study down out of Sydney, Australia, that showed that strength training had the best effects on the brain in that particular context. Also, strength training trains proprioceptive ability better than almost any other form of exercise. So if you think about like running in place, like on a treadmill or riding a bike, you're kind of doing the same movement over and over. Proper strength training involves moving laterally, moving in forward, backwards, rotating, bringing things above your head. This trains what's called proprioceptive ability in the brain and balance, which was, as we know, as people get older, strength loss and issues with balance contribute to falls, which are actually one of the number one cause of problems and even death as we get older. Strength training directly combats those things. And then, look, when it comes to the brain, insulin sensitivity is very important. So when you look at cognitive disorders, there's a very strong correlation between cognitive disorders and insulin resistance. Well, building muscle is one of the best things you could do for insulin sensitivity. They're very insulin sensitive tissues. Muscle also stores glycogen, which is what we get from carbohydrates. So building a little bit of muscle makes your body more sensitive to insulin, and this likely has a very direct effect on brain health. So it's phenomenal for cognitive ability.
I'm going to keep exercising in that case. I'm going to keep lifting heavier weights.
All right, you got another question for us?
Certainly. Benefits of having a fitness routine at an older age. How it can give retired people that are retired actually have nothing to do, give them a purpose.
Well, you just said it right there in the question. I mean, that's one of my favorite things of getting a client. I mean, I've many times trained clients who just recently had a spouse pass away, and you see them, they look like they age 10 years overnight when something like that happens, and they lose their purpose to live. And having a reason to come to the gym, to get stronger, to get healthier, gives them a goal, gives them something to focus on. A lot of times will reignite that purpose in their life. And so I think it's one of the best things that you can do for somebody in advanced age, especially as they're going in that part of their life or that season of their life where they're retired or losing a spouse, is keeping them focused on continuing to grow and improve themselves. Just because somebody is 60, 70, 80 years old does not mean that we cannot continue to progress and get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it provides, strength. It provides community. If you're in a gym, you get to show up and interact with people. So there's like more opportunities for those types of interactions every day where you have this community, you have this network of people that are there supporting you. You're able-bodied again because you're now providing your body with strength, so you can be out and about and walking and, traveling and doing, more things that you can be involved in. So there's just a lot of benefits to, focusing on strength training for that reason.
Yeah. And here's a big one. This is very simple. Before you retire, you tend to have structure in your day, and it tends to be connected to your job. So it's like, I wake up at this time, I go to work, I come home at this time, I eat dinner, do my thing, and then I repeat the thing. And then all of a sudden you don't have work anymore, and your days start to blend, kind of melt together, and you lose structure. Some of my most consistent clients were clients that were retired because it gave them structure. So they'd set that workout, and then that workout became an anchor point for their day. So I know that at 8 a.m., I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out, and that sets them up. They wake up at a particular time because they have a workout. Well, now that sets me up for lunch when I meet with my friend, and they develop this kind of schedule, the structure to their day. So, and that's just old advice. It's like when you retire, one of the things that people will tell you to do is to create some structure in your day, like keep structure, even though you don't have to get up for work. Give yourself a time to wake up, a time to go to bed, and things to do in the middle. Otherwise, it just kind of starts to blend together, and it feels, it feels like you're aimless.
And it increases that libido. Am I right, guys?
Very good. All right, you got one more question, I see.
Yes. Dietary needs for older people, specifically trying to maintain the active lifestyle. What should they focus on in their diet? Not only for physical performance, but mental performance, everything. I mean, in general, what would be the best things that they should focus on to keep healthy and physically active?
Yeah, protein first.
Protein has been shown in studies. A higher protein diet is actually more beneficial as we age, believe it or not. So now that's actually starting to become standard practice, is to advise people as they get older to eat more protein. The other thing I would say is supplementing with creatine is actually quite important for cognitive health and for cellular health. So I would find that when I would have my older clients take 2 or 3 grams of creatine a day, that they would come back and just say, "Oh man, I just feel better. I feel more energy. I feel sharper." Creatine increases the amount of ATP that our cells have as energy, and that's all the cells. So that's not just your muscle cells, but it's every cell in your body runs off of this energy. So creatine is a very good supplement. And then I would recommend nutrient-dense foods, very, very nutrient-dense foods. Whole eggs are very nutrient-dense. Meat is very nutrient-dense. Fish is very nutrient-dense. Now, of course, there may be some contraindications. So, of course, if your blood lipids are okay, everything looks good, doctor says, everything looks great, I would go for those nutrient-dense foods, because nutrient deficiencies are actually quite high in the aging population. It's actually, you start to see these nutrient deficiencies appear in aging populations more often than sometimes you see in the younger populations. And I think it's because they think they need to eat less, they become less active, or I need to cut certain foods out of my diet. And they often tend to be some of the most nutrient-dense foods. So those are the pieces of advice that I would have.
Yeah, and to add on to that, my clients, I would always be encouraging to get, blood work done so I could be more specific, right? Because, one client might have an iron deficiency, the other one does not. One client might have a vitamin D deficiency, the other one does not. And those types of supplements are going to be far more beneficial than taking some of the, performance supplements and things like that over the counter. So the generic first advice is keep them on a high protein, whole food type of diet. That's what I'm pushing. And then get blood work done. Let's see if there's any other areas that you're lacking in nutrients. And then we would supplement for those things for overall health.
Totally. Is that all your questions?
Being on the diet, I just had one more question. I was just thinking about it while you were talking. Bone support in older people. Now, I know our bones deteriorate. They become more fragile. And yes, muscle will help support them. What about dietary supplement for bone support?
Yeah.
And then the other question I have is getting too much B12 or vitamin D in your system. How is that detrimental for us older folks?
Yeah. So let's go back to strengthening your bones. If your muscles are getting stronger, your bones are getting stronger. There's nothing that'll make your bones strong like being physically strong. So nutrients aside, you got to lift weights. You got to have weight-bearing exercise to strengthen that. If you find a 75-year-old that has consistently done strength training for 30 years, their bones are going to be as strong as the average 20-something-year-old. I mean, literally, it makes that big of a difference.
If you're building muscle, you're building bone density.
Yes. Now, as far as nutrients are concerned, you don't need to supplement with any nutrients unless there's a deficiency.
That's right.
So unless you have a deficiency in calcium or vitamin D or magnesium, for example, those are all important nutrients for bone health. Unless you have a deficiency, supplementing with them isn't going to help. So I would first get tested to see if I have a deficiency. And if I do, then I would supplement with whatever I have a deficiency in while strength training. Supplementing with those things, if you don't need them, isn't going to help you out at all. And you mentioned B12 and vitamin D. B12 is water soluble. So you can definitely take too much and you'll start to notice some nerve side effects, maybe some neuropathy if it's really high, but you got to take a lot of B12 for that to happen. Vitamin D, on the other hand, is fat soluble. You could definitely take too much vitamin D, and that can be toxic to the body. But the only way to know is if you get tested. The only way to know if you're taking too much or too little is to get and it's very simple, vitamin mineral test. There's hair tests that do it. We work with Dr. Cabral's team. In fact, we have a free forum called mpholistichealth.com that anybody can join on Facebook. And they talk about testing where you can see if you're lacking certain nutrients. But if you're lacking nutrient supplement with them, if you already have them, supplementing with them makes no difference and no sense at all, especially the fat soluble ones because they get stored in the body. So vitamin D, you can definitely go over. B12, a lot more challenging. Is it possible? Yeah, you could supplement with the crap out of it, but it's because it's water soluble, we tend to not see people take too much vitamin B12.
But that's why the original advice is first to high protein, whole food diet first. That should cover most things, but then there still could be deficiencies. That's why we do blood work, find out what that is, and then we only supplement for something that you're deficient in. And we're not going to supplement just because people market to advanced people in age that, oh, you should take calcium for your bones, or, oh, you should take B12. That's such a general blanket statement for everybody. I've had plenty of clients in advanced age that don't need any of that because they have incredible diets. But then I've also had plenty of clients that are in advanced age that need a lot of that supplementation. So it really matters on whether you need it or not and how you've consistently ate over your lifetime, and then finding that out first before we ever recommend a supplement.
Yeah, it's like taking your car to the mechanic and the mechanic does zero diagnostics and then tries to fix your car. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So you got to get that testing done if you want to supplement the right way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a good answer. Thank you very much, because I am having some problems with neuropathy myself, and I do take B12, so I'll just eliminate it from my diet.
Yeah, you might be taking too much, and it's an easy test. You can actually get B12 tested in your blood, and if your levels are really, really high, I mean, do you eat meat? Do you eat meat on a regular basis?
Some, not a lot. Eggs and fish and turkey primarily, not so much red meat.
That's okay. And how often do you eat eggs, fish, and turkey?
Eggs every day. Turkey usually every day. Beef maybe every other day.
Your B12 you're probably getting enough B12 from your food, but the only way to know for sure is to test it. But if you're getting some neuropathy, it could be that how much B12 are you taking? You're taking what, like 12,000, 15,000 mcgs a day?
I don't think it's only like 12 milligrams once a day.
Yeah, 12 milligrams is a lot of B12. That's like, what is that, 5,000% of the RDA or something like that?
I have to look at the bottle, honestly.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but that might be a big dose. Again, it's water soluble, so they can do that, and usually people are okay. But if you've been supplementing a long time with that much B12
while also eating
those things, I would get your blood levels tested just to see if your blood levels of B12 are too high.
Very worth it.
Well, they did tell me that one time. They tested my blood and told me to back off on the B because I had too much in my blood.
Yeah,
and I did back off, but I still had the neuropathy issues. Somewhat.
I would test again and then stop taking it if that's the case. But thanks for calling, and thanks for what you do, by the way. You look phenomenal. I love your videos.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You got it.
I'm going to keep going at it. I enjoy it.
You got it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You know what I love about people who work out as they get into the advanced age and they're consistent? The difference between, like, for example, the difference between her and everybody else in her age group is so, if you see her move and walk around and work out compared to the average person her age, it's so different. It's like literally she's mobile, she's independent, she's healthy, she's strong, and they're on 15 different medications. They need help. They can't do everything for themselves.
Can't get out of the seat.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely
what I
insane.
love about her story and people like her is that I believe that she found strength training way late in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always really cool to see somebody in advanced age be able to say things like, here I am in my 60s and I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. Like that's phenomenal when you think about that. And it's so counter to what people think. They think like, oh, I'm, my best was when I was in my 20s. And, when you get 30, 40, 50, it's just like, oh, I'll never be like a young kid anymore.
Am I too old to work out? You're too old not to work out. Look, if you like our information, head over to mindpumpfree.com and check out our guides. We have guides that can help you with almost any health or fitness goal. You can also find all of us on social media. So Justin is on Instagram at mindpumpjustin. Adam is on Instagram at mindpumpAdam. And you can find me on Twitter at mindpumpsal. This one's really important, and that is to phase your training. If somebody trains for a full year doing a bench press and they're always aiming for 5 reps, if you compared that person to a person who did bench press where they did 3 or 4 weeks of 5 reps, but then they did 3 or 4 weeks of 12 reps and then 3 or 4 weeks of, let's say, 15 to 20 reps, and then they'll throw in some supersets. At the end of that year, you're going to see more consistent progress from the person who's moving in and out, and less injury. That's another thing. You'll see less injury as well.